Advisory services offered through VestGen Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and VestGen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. VestGen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax or legal advice. People of Chicago, welcome to In the Know Radio with Craig Bolanos, co-founder and wealth advisor at VestGen Wealth Partners. You want help from someone you can trust, someone who knows what it takes to get retired and stay retired. Today, Craig's going to teach you what you need to know. So get ready to learn something that could change your life. Get connected to the show by calling 833-964-PLAN or go to getretiredstayretired.com. And now, here's Craig Bolanos.
Oh my gosh, what's going on? Is there really a growth scare in markets? Hey, happy Sunday, guys. We're here every week to help you get retired and stay retired. That means sincere and actionable ideas. But I said it, man, the consumer sentiment surveys, they're not looking that good. And those weak consumer sentiment surveys have created what appears to be a growth scare that have hit stocks, albeit temporarily. So here's what's going on. This is what you need to know. And then more importantly, let's talk about what you should do about it. So at the end of the day, what happened is the previous week, you saw that University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, that thing fell and it fell out of bed hard. In addition to that, there's a Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index, and that declined hard. And when you've got these measures of consumer confidence registering some of the largest drops, at least in recent memory, that's concerning, because what has made the U.S. economy so exceptional, what has made us so great, is the exceptionalism of the U.S. consumer. So anything that threatens consumer spending is really an issue. Now, this sudden drop in sentiment, it's led some people to think a similar drop in spending is going to occur. But notice I said sentiment. Sentiment is feelings. I didn't say there was bad retail sales. I didn't say people aren't spending money. I didn't say people aren't going on European river cruises. I just said the surveys show that people don't feel good. Well, and you know what? Maybe that's the case. But I think these sudden drops in consumer sentiment need to be taken with a grain of salt. We're talking about what's washing over the markets right now, causing this volatility. So I think people need to take this consumer sentiment with a grain of salt, because if I put it simply, and that's why I love AM 560, we can be blunt. If I put it simply, depending on whether you're an R or a D, Republican or Democrat, your views of the economy and the future of the economy appears wildly different, and that is likely skewing some of these sentiment surveys lowers right now, because the reasons are clear. First, whenever there's a change in control at the federal government, especially one that encompasses the White House, both chambers of Congress, political emotions are going to be amplified and more pronounced, both positively and negatively, to the extent that the survey responses could be materially impacted. Second, President Trump, he got reelected, and he got reelected in part because he's not a conventional politician. He utilizes relatively unusual policy tactics, but sometimes they've worked, such as tariffs. And when you do that, it can cause uncertainty amongst Democratic survey respondents who inherently will have less confidence in Republican political practices. So at the same time, Republicans, as they're surveyed, they're likely to maintain some degree of what I call confidence in what's happening. So here's what I want you guys to think about. At the end of the day, this sudden plunge of consumer sentiment data, it should never be ignored, but you got to think about how polarized the nature of the country remains with these vastly differing views on administrations, policies, tactics, all based on party affiliations. And with that in mind, I think there's some things that you ought to be doing in your investment portfolio. And one of the things that you ought to be doing in your investment portfolio is making sure you more equally weight your sectors. far too many people, unbeknownst to them, literally are no longer diversified. There are too many people that literally have 45 cents of every dollar they have invested just in communication and technology stocks. And some people are like, yeah, it's been great. Other people are like, wait, Craig must be hinting to something. Yes, I am. If the only thing you own is the stock market index, you likely have 42 to 45% of your money in just two areas of the market, those areas being communication and technology. And if 45% of your money is in just two areas of the market, and I've got news, there's only 7 stocks that make up the majority of that market, you don't have the diversification you need to endure a real growth scare if one were to occur. So part number one is everybody, you got to take a look at your actual sector weightings in your portfolio. And we've talked time and time again that there's cap weighted indices. We've talked about equal weight indices. And our answer is people should participate in both. And that's proving out again this year. You want to have some exposure both into cap weighted and to equally weight indices. Because again, an equal weight indice is where every stock is equally weighted. Hence, it gives you exposure to some of those other areas you might not have enough money in, like financials, energy, industrials, healthcare. Remember, last year's loser oftentimes is this year's winner, aka healthcare. So if you want to know more about that, you want to know more about what it is that you own in your portfolio, not the names, not the mutual funds, not the ETFs, but when you take all of these different things, package them together in one holding, what does it look like beneath the surface? Let us help you peel back the layers in that complicated onion to make sure that you have proper diversification. You already know I'm optimistic about less regulation. You know I'm already optimistic about a renewal of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. You already know that I believe in pro-growth economic policies. But I've also said that when bull markets make it past the 2-year mark, which this bull market did in the fourth quarter of 2024, they typically go longer than people think. That's good news for all of us. But that third year of that bull market cycle tends to be the most volatile and the weakest. And guess what year we're in? Yeah, we're in year number 3. Okay, speaking of stocks, people, for whatever reason, think that energy is dead. People are looking at the price of crude oil and it's way down. Energy stocks are not dead. There is going to be an energy renaissance. The fact that oil is plus or minus was under $70 a barrel, then just over $70 a barrel. I remember when oil was as high as $120 a barrel. Wait, really? Yeah, wasn't that long ago. Seriously, guys, oil prices were literally pushing $120 a barrel back in the spring of 2022. Right now, oil's back to 70. I think oil is a very investable theme. Whether you want to talk about decarbonization or you want to apologize for the carbon footprint, I think a lot of these energy conglomerates who trade at low valuations, have great dividend yields, are going to be benefactors of the energy renaissance. Now, is it true that the more oil is produced, the more of something, the less that thing commands value? Of course, that's true. But you have to look at the fact that there is this growing population. You have to look at the fact that we've talked for several weeks on this radio program that data centers are the new gold. Data centers are the new gold standard. And all of that means energy consumption is going to be going up. So I think at the end of the day, getting a good stake in energy, getting a good stake in energy infrastructure is important for so many people. And with energy stocks only making up 3.3% of the S&P 500 when it wasn't that long ago, that energy stocks used to represent 8% of the S&P 500. If things go back to the norm, meaning things revert to the mean, guess what? energy stocks are really going to move. So if you want to learn more, you absolutely can. Pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-964-PLAN. That's 833-964-PLAN. Let us help you plan your financial future. That's not just goals-based retirement planning. That's inclusive of cash flow planning. It's not just about curating assets. It's about creating a systematic, repeatable cash flow plan using something that's tested in the trenches. That's our 3 pillars of retirement income. If you don't want to pick up the phone, connect with us online. GetRetiredStayRetired.com, GetRetiredStayRetired.com. Take a look at some of our thought leadership, our work all over the media, various outlets, including the station you're listening to right now. Now, when we come back, I've mentioned it before. I'm going to mention it again. We're actually going to talk a little bit about some significant changes in the cryptocurrency industry. More broadly, I want people to understand that Bitcoin, cryptos, they are not appropriate for everybody. But the reality is today, whether or not you have an allocation or not, you got to know what's going on with the world's top cryptocurrency, because that's what this show is about, making you aware of the most important facts and then helping you connect those facts to actionable ideas that will get done for you. 833-964-PLAN. Connect with us. GetRetiredStayRetired.com. Bitcoin and crypto-related news you need coming up after the break. You're listening to Craig Bolanos in the Know. AM 560, The Answer.
Radio with Craig Bolanos on AM 560 The Answer, where his goal is to pummel you with financial know-how until you say uncle.
I know what you're thinking. We're actually going to talk about something that's controversial for so many, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency yet again. Yeah, I get it. As I said before, that Bitcoin, cryptos, they're not appropriate for everybody. And the reality is no one knows the future. But whether or not you have an allocation to Bitcoin or not, I think you got to know what's going on with what I call the world's top cryptocurrency. So the bottom line is, let's get you some info. The first thing is, remember, I mentioned it just last week or the week before. This thing, Bitcoin, turned 16 years old. 16 years. It's not like it's new in the last 16 months. It's not like it's 2, 3, 4 years old. It's 16 years old. How many people? 16? That means kids are driving now. So Bitcoin's basically driving. Number 2, Bitcoin did hit an all-time high, not right now, but it did, well over the 100,000 mark to 109,000. Second on my list. This is what's newsworthy. This is why I'm talking about it. Domestic. Domestic means United States. Possible domestic state adoption. There are numerous U.S. state officials who have contemplated, proposed, or advanced legislation to add Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset to their state's treasuries. Who's the short list? New Hampshire, North Dakota, Texas, Oklahoma, Wyoming, Massachusetts, California, Utah, Arizona, Illinois, South Dakota, Ohio, Kentucky. Why do I mention that? Either it's people jumping on a bandwagon, it's just a fad, or given that Bitcoin is 16 years old now, and given the current administration clearly is pro cryptocurrency, if you have states start adopting it as a reserve currency for their treasuries, I'm not casting judgment on whether they should or not. But here's what I'm saying. That's newsworthy. That's newsworthy because it would further legitimize the asset. Well, forget the domestic adoption. How about the international adoption? I talked about this 2 weeks ago. The Czech National Bank approved a study on adding Bitcoin to its national reserves. Interesting. Quote, for the diversification of our country's asset, Bitcoin seems good. Okay, I don't know that that's great proper English language and grammar. Granted, it's translated from Czechoslovakia. But in addition, someone in Italy's largest banking group just also created language to go ahead and say, hey, we should adopt it as a reserve currency as well. So now what I'm seeing is an asset class that's 16 years old, an asset class that has domestic U.S. potential adoption by all these states, some level of international adoption. And then don't forget, this isn't me saying it, this is what Fidelity said in its 2025 digital asset report. Nation states, central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and government treasuries will look to establish a strategic position in Bitcoin. And quote, we may be entering the dawn of a new era for digital assets, one poised to span multiple years, if not decades. Now, whether you believe in that report, I'm just saying it's further evidence that this thing is moving. In case you're just joining us, we're talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, international adoption, domestic adoption, and outlook. How about the accounting changes? I mean, thanks to FASB, you just saw a mark-to-market boost to some companies' earnings, like Tesla in particular. They got a $600 million mark-to-market boost from Bitcoin, thanks to the new accounting rules that have been adopted. Okay, what about this one? Big. After 1 year in the books, because it was February of last year. We just closed out the month of February. 1 year in the books, 4, not 1, but 4 of the spot price Bitcoin ETFs finished in the top 20 US ETF launches of all time. All time. And for those who want to get into Bitcoin but are worried, there's even an ETF. It's complicated. That's the first protected Bitcoin ETF. So here's the thing. A lot of people have stayed away from cryptocurrencies, and for good reason. It's not backed by anything. It's an open peer-to-peer network backed by the concept of blockchain. But for those who have stayed away, or those who haven't gotten too involved, you can't deny the weight of evidence that I just shared with you. And as a result of that, you got to start thinking to yourself, should I participate in some way? I didn't say people have to participate in a meaningful way. I just said, do you want to participate in some way? It's very controversial, I know, as we talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But people said it was never going to go to 100,000. It did. People say it's never going to go to 1 million. What if it does? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to learn more about digital currency. I want you to have the opportunity to learn more about the concept of blockchain. And I want you to appreciate some of these things that are happening on the policy front, like when President Trump signs a crypto executive order, which included creating the Presidential Working Group on Digital Asset Markets. The key goal of this was strengthening U.S. leadership in digital finance, improving the regulatory environment for digital assets. Quote, establishing a digital asset stockpile. That's noteworthy stuff. You can't make it up. It's all over the news. And if you see these growth scares like we're getting, courtesy of consumer sentiment being difficult and some other pieces, it just might mean it's the chance to start building positions to take advantage of some of the volatility that's there. And I think we're in a great position to help those who want to learn more figure out how they can participate. But it also means if you're going to participate in something, you need to be able to measure and understand what your risk budget is. You know, we talk about this all the time. There's risk tolerance. That's how we feel. Then there's risk budget. That's our capacity to take risk. And if you're like me and you're like our clients, we together have worked hard. We've been self-reliant. Everything we have, we created through our own sweat equity. And as a result of that, we're all excellent stewards of our capital. We're good with our money. But I look at it and I say, if someone wants to take some paper profits they've made in stocks, because of the run-up that we've seen over the last 24 months, and redeploy some of those paper profits, a small portion of them, into an asset class that appears to be much more viable now that it's 16 years old and driving, aka cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, there's great ways to do it. So how do you connect with us? Pick up the phone, 833-964-PLAN, 833-964-PLAN, or check us out online, getretiredstayretired.com. That's getretiredstayretired.com. And when you go out to getretiredstayretired.com, click on all of the media so you don't just hear us on radio, see us for all of the TV and broadcast work that we do, talking about trade, posturing, Feds, interest rates. I encourage you to download useful guides, optimizing Social Security in today's world, why 59 and a half is an important age. And then when you're ready, take advantage of a complimentary consultation. Visit with myself. Visit with one of our dedicated team members virtually, via the phone, in person. And let's see if there's common denominators. But if you're listening to this station, because this station I take great care for, is I've been affiliated with this station for well over a decade. It's called The Answer for a reason. And if you want to work with advisors that have the heart of teachers, advisors, myself, who really considers himself to be a financial educator, I think it's a game changer. 833-964-PLAN. Find us online, getretiredstayretired.com. That's getretiredstayretired.com. Well, 'tis tax season. And given it's tax season, what are some of the things that you might be able to do to lower your 2024 tax bill in 2025? Hope is not lost. There's still things you can do. For everyone who's on Social Security, I had to write an article the other day about how many ways could you save on Social Security taxes. So I came up with a big list, but I broke it down to 7. I'm going to share with you what those 7 ways would be when we come back. But again, connect with us online, getretiredstayretired.com. That's getretiredstayretired.com. Let's engage on this important topic that we just got done visiting on, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, because the industry is moving. The adoption domestically and international is here. On the policy front, President Trump just signed that executive order. I think people just need to learn more. 833-964-PLAN, getretiredstayretired.com. Craig Bolanos, VestGen Wealth Partners, in the know, AM 560.
You want more in the know radio? You want more in the know radio? You can't handle more in the know radio. Okay, yeah, you can. And it's on AM 560. The Answer. Welcome back. Here's more with Craig.
I feel like it's that time of the year where we give that annual dose, that public service announcement. And what I mean there is, with tax season underway, and in fact, it's well underway, some people are eager for strategies to reduce their 2024 income taxes, aka if you lower your 2024 income taxes, you either pay less money or you boost your refund. But of course, there are limited options, especially for those who are, air quotes, W-2 employees. So what are some of the very few moves? And yes, there are very few moves that you can make in 2025 to save on last year 2024's taxes. Well, let me give you the reminders. Number 1, health savings accounts. Oh, I get excited on these. I haven't talked about them in a while. But if you have a high deductible health plan, okay, who doesn't think their health care is high deductible these days? Are you contributing to a HSA, a health savings account? A health savings account is the Swiss Army knife of financial planning. It is tax deductible contributions. Awesome. Lower your 2024 tax bill. It is tax deferred growth. You can just let the money sit in there and grow. You can even let the money go in there and invest it in energy positions, in financials, in industrials, in technology. And then after it sits and incubates for years, maybe even decades, if you're a younger worker, you can then pull all of that money out of the HSA tax-free. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Why wouldn't anyone want to create a preordained place to pay for their retiree health care with triple tax preference dollars, tax deductible, tax deferred, tax-free withdrawals? So a lot of people might have a health savings account today, but they might not have a health savings account that can be invested. So if you want to move to a strategy where you fund an HSA and earmark it for future retiree healthcare expenses, call us 833-964-PLAN. Go out to our website, getretiredstayretired.com. Part number 2, we're doing that public service announcement once per year of what you can do right now in 25 to save on 2024's taxes. Well, second is after you fund that health savings account, if you're eligible, what about making that pre-tax IRA deposit? I mean, you got until April 15th. I mean, you can put away $7,000. If you're 50 or older, you could do $8,000. And if you or you and a spouse do that, if you're over the age of 50, that'd be a combined $16,000 of less taxable income you have on your return if you can make a tax-deductible contribution. So, but remember, if you're going to build out that IRA, might be a great opportunity to be thinking about some of those equal weight indices I mentioned. Might be a great way to start taking a position in virtual currency like Bitcoin if you thought it mattered to you, using a dirt cheap, low cost, tax efficient exchange traded fund. That's just idea number 2. What's idea number 3? Well, I kind of hinted to it. Leverage a spousal IRA. If you're a married couple filing jointly, there's a lesser known option known as a spousal IRA, which is a separate Roth or traditional IRA for non-working spouses. Yes, non-working spouses. Too many people think you have to have earned income to fund an IRA. Well, you do, unless you're a non-working spouse. So think about opening up that spousal IRA. I think that's a great way as well to go ahead and leverage things to lower last year's tax bill. Okay, so that was a couple of quick and easy things that people can be doing. What else should you be thinking about? Well, when I think about lowering taxes, I told you I had to pen this article with different ideas on how to lower taxes on Social Security benefits. So I thought we'd dive into some of the ways you can potentially do that. I mean, number one, I guess one way to go ahead and lower the tax bill on Social Security is to delay taking it until 70. But remember, not everybody should do it. This isn't a strategy today about delayed retirement credits and other things. But if you didn't want to pay taxes on it, you could just delay Social Security. But on the Social Security front, it just came out Wednesday of this week. Those checks for the Social Security Fairness Act, I got news, people, they might be here as early as the end of February, early March. Holy cow, game changer, just in time for a lot of Americans to turbocharge some consumerism. If you're wondering what the Social Security Fairness Act means to you, if you had a non-covered pension, give us a call, 833-964-PLAN. Go to our website, getretiredstayretired.com, getretiredstayretired.com. Well, what else can you do to lower taxes on your Social Security? Well, you could leverage Roth account rules. Remember, Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, powerful tools in a tax minimization plan. And unlike those traditional retirement accounts, those Roth accounts are tax-free in retirement. So you could lower your taxable income in future years by strategically converting some of your regular IRA, regular 401k dollars to a Roth before you start claiming Social Security. Now, there's drawbacks and plus and minuses, but you know this. One of the biggest things that you're up against is TIR. TIR stands for taxes in retirement, and anything you can do to lower your TIR is good because it's about optionality. That's why Roth conversions are for everybody. We're talking about different ways to maybe lower the tax burden on your Social Security. We just got done with our top 3. Here's number 4. Just offset capital gains with losses. Tax loss harvesting on the equity front and tax swaps on the bond front can definitively help minimize taxes on Social Security, because when you sell investments that have temporarily declined in value, you realize that capital loss that offsets your gain, which reduces your taxable income. And it's just, here's the thing. The speech I want to make is tax smart investing or tax loss harvesting or tax swaps is not something that you do once per year. It is something you do all throughout the year. And that gets into our concept of direct indexing. It gets into something we talk about from time to time on this show, TLO, tax lot optimization. What are your advisors doing for tax lot optimization? I know what we do. It's more sophisticated than most because we've made the investments for specific share, while too many other advisors are out there and they're lazy and they're using average cost. If you want to learn more, you definitely can. GetRetiredStayRetired.com. That's GetRetiredStayRetired.com. What else can you do to lower the taxes on Social Security? Oh, I know. Give to charity, but specifically qualified charitable distributions. So if you're 70 and a half, I didn't say 73. If you're 70 and a half and you have retirement accounts, then your first dollars to charity should come from your IRA. That's a brilliant way to lower your taxable income. What else is on my list? Just move somewhere that doesn't tax Social Security. There's plenty of states that don't have a state tax. There's plenty of states that don't tax Social Security. Go somewhere where it's constantly sunny versus overcast. You'll be happier. Just saying. Now, whole bunch of things there. But I mention those things because it's not about what you earn. It's about what you keep. And winning is at the margins. You look at pro sports, it's at the margins. Heck, I tell people I'm fully addicted to pickleball. And you want to know what I realize? It's won at the margins. It's about high percentage shot making, not giving anything away. Your retirement success is the same thing. It's about winning at the margins. And that's why at VestGen Wealth Partners, we have assembled a multidisciplinary team under a fiduciary standard that brings to you a family office experience to help you get retired and stay retired. And I'd love for you to learn more. I'd love to talk to you personally. Connect with me online. GetRetiredStayRetired.com. Gonna pay some bills. That means some commercials. More to come. In the Know, Craig Bolanos, AM 560, The Answer.
Would you like a dose of knowledge? Good, because Craig is back and about to fill your retirement prescription. Back to In the Know Radio on AM 560, The Answer.
You know, even though we strictly suggest that people be heavily focused with U.S. investments, you still got to have a global view. You got to have a global view. And as a result of that, I'm actually going to talk to you about something. How about the Chinese People's Congress session that's coming up? I mean, let's do a preview of this thing. Now, you might recall that Chinese equities, aka DeepSeek, artificial intelligence, well, that exposure totally rattled U.S. tech stocks courtesy of its low-cost, open-source model, and it called to question all the money that we're spending if, in fact, artificial intelligence, good generative AI, large language models can be done cheap. Well, you know how I feel about that. I think it was mostly a bunch of BS. But my point is, if we focus on China and we learn with what's going to be happening and what they're going to be talking about, China has radically transformed its economy over the last 6 years. Yep, just 6 years. They are no longer just producers of low margin goods. That's what they used to be good for. They've become an important producer of big ticket industrial items just in the last 6 years. And they export that to many of an emerging market country. And you know what that's done? It's seen their trade surplus increase by about 300% as the US has become a much smaller part of their total trade. As such, these domestic dynamics, more likely than not, are going to be some of the most critical factors for the Chinese economy and, of course, their equity markets later this year. Now, one of the big things is China. I talked about it last year because I want you to know what's going on elsewhere around the globe so you have an appreciation for what's happening here. I think China has done all of these stimulus measures that overpromised, and guess what they did? They totally underdelivered. I mean, outside of trade actions, technology optimism, I think attention turns to the legislative meetings, including the National Congress Standing Committee over in China, which is set to conclude its sessions. And remember that stimulus we talked about last fall? If you listen to our show regularly, I said China was going to literally light up a bazooka worth of stimulus. And they did. They did. And when they fired that so-called stimulus bazooka in the fourth quarter of last year, it totally buoyed Chinese stocks. There's no doubt about it. But since then, authorities over in China, they've been hard at work to rejuvenate what is a struggling economy, and they've pledged to deploy all this additional fiscal spending. And why am I going on this rant about China? You know, their big policy, their big meeting, it's this and that. I think at the end of the day, people are going to say, you know what? The US stock market isn't off to the most awesome start. And people are going to be like, we should start putting money in emerging markets and start putting money in Europe and start putting money here and putting money everywhere. And I just want to tell you that there's a lot of fog relative to the structural inefficiencies in a lot of these other countries. And I think up until some of that fog lifts, investors are going to want to be diversified, but continue to overweight things that are back at home. Because when you see countries like China launch a bazooka worth of stimulus and then still have some fledgling issues after that, that doesn't exactly inspire a lot of optimism, does it? No, it doesn't. And if you're going to be an investor, you just got to follow the math. And I think that math right now still leads you to participating in these GCAs. GCAs are great companies of America. It's companies that manufacture products or deliver and render services that you consume, that I consume, that we all consume. It's these companies that are led by excellent management teams. They're management teams that have really good IQ. That's implementation quotient. They get stuff done, okay? In addition to that, these great companies of America, they got these wider moats, meaning it's tough for a competitor to come out of left field and take them down. And something that's a hallmark of great companies of America, they tend to be these cash cows. And what I mean by cash cows is when you can participate in companies that have high free cash flow, that means those companies are typically in a position to not just have a dividend, but grow their dividend. And remember, a big part of investing is having a stream of income that you can't outlive. And I don't think there's too many better ways to generate a stream of income that you can't outlive than to grow with companies that are compounding their annual dividend north of 6% per year. I mean, think about this for a minute. How many people get a 6% cost of living adjustment in their pension each year? They don't. When was the last time you got a 6% cost of living adjustment in your Social Security? Yeah, you got one a couple of years ago, but you got it because inflation was up 9%. How many people get 6% pay raises at work? But if you can have parts of your capital invested in great companies of America, and you have a sufficient capital base whereby you can afford to live off of just the dividends of those companies. And if the dividends from those companies compound at an annual growth rate over 6% per year, well, then aren't you going to be able to grow your income to keep up with inflation? Aren't you going to be able to outgrow your Cook County property tax bill? Aren't you going to be able to continue to pay for different sources? And that's just so critical. So I don't know how I did. I don't think I did a good job in this segment. My producer, George, will tell me later. He'll be like, you started talking about China, talking about their national conference, talking about their bazooka of stimulus that missed, talked about investing back in the United States, and somehow turned it into a great companies of America and 3 pillars of retirement income speech. Yeah, that's what I did. But if any of that resonates with you because you want to find ways to grow your income, you got to pick up the phone and give us a call. 833-964-PLAN. That's 833-964-PLAN. Connect with us. Connect with me personally online. GetRetiredStayRetired.com. You know, if you listen to what we do on this show, even today, we just talked about China. We talked about Bitcoin. We talked about consumer sentiment. We talked about things in 2025 you can do to save on your 2024 tax return. We address Social Security. We talk about a lot of stuff. And you know why? Because if winning's at the margins, as I talked about in that last segment, it takes a multidiscipline approach of financial professionals working together as a team, not professionals who share office space, not professionals who share costs. No, a multidiscipline team who shares and represents jointly the clients in the areas of investing, financial planning, taxation, estate planning, retiree healthcare, long-term care. And those are the things we do, and we do them so well at VestGen Wealth Partners. And I want you to connect with me. GetRetiredStayRetired.com. That's GetRetiredStayRetired.com. 833-964-PLAN. 833-964-PLAN. When we come back, I got to address just for a moment one of the avalanche issues again in American financial planning. A lot of us have been affected by it. It touches us personally. What are some of the things that you can be thinking and pondering on for the avalanche issue in American financial planning? We're going to cover that next. Okay, you're listening to In the Know, Craig Bolanos, VestGen Wealth Partners. Get retired, stay retired, AM 560, The Answer.
Get ready to be blown away with a hefty gust of financial know-how. You're listening to In the Know Radio with Craig Bolanos on AM 560. The Answer.
The avalanche issue in American financial planning is not getting retired and staying retired. We'll help you. We'll get that done together. The avalanche issue isn't college. The avalanche issue is long-term care. I've told this story in the radio. I say it again. All disease is terrible, and some disease is just worse. Huntington's disease, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, that touched my family. And there's just not good ways to hedge around it. You've heard my opinions before. I say them again. Traditional long-term care planning and traditional long-term care insurance products where you put yourself in a place to have ginormous premium hikes every couple of years isn't a long-term viable solution for someone who's looking to get some insurance. But there are solutions today that handle the boxes you need to check. Let me share with you what the boxes are you need to check. Number one, if you want to protect from spousal impoverishment, to make sure if you get sick or your spouse gets sick, that there's still money, this is what you need. The type of policy that you can purchase in a lump sum, a one-time check you can write, or pay it off over 3 to 5 years, larger premiums, but then it's paid up forever and they can never raise your premiums. Number 2, you need something that covers home health care, community care, assisted living, and long-term care. Check the box. Number 3, you need a policy that the benefits are received tax-free by you. Number 4, you need the benefits to be tax deductible, meaning a portion of the premiums you pay are deductible on your return to help you itemize. Next, you want an indemnity policy. An indemnity policy is better than a reimbursement policy because with an indemnity policy, they just cut you a check and you deploy that money how you see fit. Next, most importantly, if you're going to make an investment that is a significant premium, if you die without ever using it, wouldn't it be nice that the premiums you pay at least go back to your beneficiary in your estate? Yes. Absolutely. The premiums you pay can be structured to go back to your estate, so it's not use it or lose it. And then best of all, if something crazy happens 15, 20 years from now and we have single payer in this country, you can go ahead, cancel your policy, get your premiums back. It gives you an off-ramp. That's how you solve for long-term care. That's what I want to help you do. 833-964-PLAN. Get retired, stay retired.com. Get retired, stay retired.com.